Hello there. My name is Keith, and welcome to the definitive halftime rankings. This is really the only halftime rankings you're going to need. You're welcome, by the way. I have thought long and hard about all of the different halftime shows, and I'm here to give you my ranking of where they should sit. Okay, let's talk about why I'm qualified because I've gone back and I've watched all these halftime shows courtesy of YouTube. Secondly, well, because everybody's putting out these lists, and I'm thinking I like making lists, so let me do that. And also, quite frankly, I've got some criteria. We've got to make sure that this is a solid halftime show. We have to make sure, regardless of whether I like the artist or not, did this halftime show hit? Is it rewatchable? Is this the type of thing you're going to send a link of it to your friends and say, hey, you need to check this out? This was an outstanding halftime show. We're going to take into account whether or not the artist is an icon and whether or not they delivered on their icon status or whether they fell flat. If it's something that we enjoyed, all of the things, we're taking them into account, and we are going to come out with our definitive halftime list. Let me tell you what the tools we're working with. Over here, I've got a list of just the halftime shows and all of the artists, because I don't know if you see this or not. Let me throw this in here. This here is our ranking tier. These pictures are pretty small, and your boy's wearing some prescription glasses, so I want to make sure I get everything right. Now the second thing is that sometimes there are some background supporting cast members in these halftime shows. So for example, you might have an artist and they bring up other artists. I want to make sure I name them all. We got a lot of halftime shows to go through. I don't want to hold you up. We've got our ranking system. Here it is. Check it out. We've got the S tier. This is like the greatest of great halftime shows. We got the A tier, outstanding halftime shows. B tier, still really good. C tier, kind of meh. D, no bueno. And F, just garbage. All right. So that's the tier. That's the rankings. Again, this is selected by the board of me, myself, and I. If you disagree, that's okay. I got something for you. It's called the comment section. Just jump in there. Let me know what you think. I'm open to having a little bit of a debate, a little bit of a back and forth. Let's just keep it friendly. And if you agree with what I'm saying, then that's cool too. And if you want to see more content like this, let me know that as well. Doesn't hurt to subscribe. I would appreciate it. It goes a long way. Let us start back in 1993. We are talking Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Of course, this is really the birth of the halftime shows. And yes, they had halftime shows before, but never on this scale. I have to say, production value in 2026 versus production value in 1993, very different. But we are absolutely talking about an icon. One of the coolest things about this halftime show, MJ comes out on stage and doesn't move for like a couple of minutes, just frozen in time. Can you imagine if Bad Bunny did that this weekend? That'd be crazy. Producers would be losing their minds. But when you're the king of pop, you can get away with these things. Even though this halftime show was the first main one that we're looking at, I still think it's before its time, and I'm dropping old MJ in the A tier. All right, we're gonna go a little quicker on the next one. The next one we've got, it was Rockin' Country, Clint Black, Tanya Tucker, Travis Tritt, and the Judds. I get down with country music. I just don't get down with this halftime show. It's going into the F tier. Next up, we've got Patti LaBelle. We've got the whole Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. We've also got Teddy Pendergrass, Tony Bennett. Here's the deal. I'm not a Patti LaBelle fan. Patti, you know you did Luther Vandross dirty. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it and check it out. But outside of that, this is, again, one of those halftime shows that nobody cares about. This is going to drop into the F tier. Up next, we've got Diana Ross. We're coming in hot in 1996. Diana Ross, again, an icon. I would have loved to have seen her perform under the production value that we have now. I think it's still a decent halftime show. We're gonna put Miss Ross in the B tier. Next up, we've got the Blues Brothers, and it was a Blues Brothers bash, which include Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman, and Jim Belushi, along with ZZ Top and James Brown. When you've got ZZ Top and James Brown on stage and they're being upstaged by John Goodman, it's kind of a problem, but that's okay. The solution is the F tier. Up next, we have got a salute to Motown, Boys to Men, Smokey Robinson, Martha Reeves, The Temptations, Queen Latifah, a whole lot of talent. But again, from a memorable standpoint, no one's tapping on my shoulder and say, hey, let's check out this halftime show. decent, but just very meh. So we're putting this in the C tier. Up next, we got Gloria Estefan, who was here's some fun Super Bowl halftime trivia for you. There are two artists that have performed at the halftime show three times. Gloria Estefan is one of them. The other one, Justin Timberlake. This was Gloria Estefan with Stevie Wonder. And again, it was the celebration of soul, salsa, and swing. We're gonna find them in the C tier. Up next, we have got Phil Collins, Christina Aguilera, Enrique Iglesias, Tony Braxton. On paper, it sounds good, but in reality, it wasn't awesome. We're going to put them over in the D tier. Up next, we had a pretty decent one. We had Aerosmith and NSYNC with Britney Spears, Mary J. Blige, and Nelly. We'll go ahead and throw them over in the B tier. Up next, we're at 2002. So this is just after 9/11. U2 was the halftime show, and I got to tell you something. This is one of those television moments that will stay with people. Of course, U2 came out and they did Beautiful Day, they did MLK, and they did Where the Streets Have No Name. Pretty short set list compared to what we see today. And they had the names of the victims of 9/11 playing behind them on the screen as they were performing, which was such a wonderful tribute. And then at the end, of course, Bono opening up his jacket, revealing the American flag. It was a time when people were looking for something to smile about and something to a moment. I just can I say of hopefulness, of something positive, as opposed to all the doom and gloom they were seeing in the news. This is one of those times where U2 absolutely understood the assignment. Don't whine because they gave you a free album on your iPhone 6 or whatever it was. They are absolutely one of the most iconic groups of all time. And back in 2002, they absolutely delivered, and I'm delivering them up to the S tier. After U2, we had Shania Twain and No Doubt. One of those acts understood the assignment. The other one was Shania Twain. We're going to go ahead and put them in the D tier. Again, an act that wasn't overly memorable. Sorry, Gwen Stefani. Next up, okay, we got to take a moment. We're going to talk about Nipplegate. Okay, we got Janet Jackson, P. Diddy, Nelly, Kid Rock, Justin Timberlake, Jessica Simpson. Everybody's up in arms because Janet Jackson's nipple came out. Now, here's the thing. I am not Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, but I will say that when Justin Timberlake rips off that particular article of her clothing and she just happens to have like what looked like an ornament hanging from her nipple, you think that might have been planned, folks? You think that maybe perhaps they knew exactly what they were doing? And of course, Janet Jackson took the brunt of that while Justin put his tail between his legs, cried himself a river, and ran down the road. I'm not a prude. And I understand that you don't want that on live television. I'm not saying it was cool, but as we go through it, and that halftime show was in 2004. Here we are, 2026. We had Chapel Ronan, I think her name is. I apologize if I butcher that, but you know who I'm talking about. Pink Pony Club lady over at the Grammys the other day, pretty much having everything hanging out. Nobody seemed to be up in arms about that. We've got like tons of sex on TV. Nobody cares about that. But Janet Jackson let a nipple slip on purpose, by the way, and we're all going crazy. When I look back at that halftime show, I'm not complaining about Janet Jackson. I'm thinking to myself, how in the world did we let P. Diddy get next to all those young women? That's the problem. Don't get me wrong. This is absolutely going in the D tier, but not because of the nipple slip, but because the entire thing just seemed to be completely lip synced and it just completely phony. So I had a major issue with that. I like the music. I like Janet Jackson. I mean, if you were, chances are growing up, you might have. Anyway, Janet Jackson's very lovely. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, this still absolutely belongs in the D tier. Next up, we got Paul McCartney. He was a part of a band called the Beatles. I don't know if you heard of them or not, but he did this one all by himself. And of course, after the whole Janet Jackson fiasco, they wanted to make sure they had a nice wholesome act, and I think McCartney delivered. B tier. Up next, we have the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones did what the Rolling Stones do. I think if you're a big fan of the Rolling Stones, you would have liked this halftime show. I'm kind of mediocre on them. I do like my namesake Keith Richards as part of the group. And let's be clear, Keith Richards is going to outlast all of us. Just something that we have to come to understand. I liked the halftime show, but when I'm thinking about some of the iconic groups here, I don't know that they blew it out of the water. And for that reason, I'm putting them in the C tier. Up next, listen, there is absolutely a bias built in here. I am sitting here chatting with you while I've got my Prince mug close by. But let's be clear, Prince is your favorite artist's favorite artist. He is the absolute best. Not just the best halftime show, but I would argue one of the best artists we've ever seen. Absolutely going into the S tier. When you ask people for years after this halftime show, what was the greatest halftime show of all time without any prompting? Most people are going to say Prince, and there's a reason for that. If you haven't seen it, YouTube's got you covered. Check it out and watch this halftime show. Fantastic. We're into 2008, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Again, I'm not a huge Tom Petty fan. Doesn't matter. We're still putting them in the B tier because they delivered a great halftime show. Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band. I got to take a moment on this one. They were introduced as the E Street Band. It was fantastic. For years, the NFL and the world pretty much wanted Bruce and his group to perform at the halftime show. They kept saying no. I don't know what they did this particular year to sweeten the pot, but they got them there, and it was absolutely incredible. I had the privilege of seeing Bruce Springsteen here a couple of years ago, and it was a show within a show because I got to see this icon on stage perform for like 2 hours and 40 minutes ish. And the only person who didn't take a break from the entire E Street band was Bruce Springsteen. So it was great seeing him perform, but it was also great kind of observing all these lifelong Springsteen fans and just how much he means to them. And I'm also thinking to myself, when I saw him perform, dude's in his 70s and he doesn't get tired at all. He's got energy for days. Bruce Springsteen might be part black. I'm not sure. Either way, S tier. Up next, we have got The Who. Now, The Who was a funny one. Now, The Who's halftime show took place on the CBS network. And you have to understand, back in those days, which is 2010, there were a bunch of these CSI shows, CSI, and then CSI Miami, CSI New York, and every single one of them had a theme song, as TV shows do, and each theme song was a different song by The Who. So The Who basically comes out, and they're basically just performing all the CSI show theme songs, which of course are their songs, on the CBS network. It was weird. The sound on top of that wasn't the greatest. We're going to drop them off into the D tier. Up next, Black Eyed Peas. So Black Eyed Peas with Usher, with Slash. This is one of those halftime shows that didn't age well, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, you know what, it wasn't bad. But then rewatching it, I'm like, no, it was. Fergie is just trying way too hard with the vocals on this one. It's a little out of control. It's not one of those ones that ages well at all. And if you're sending it to somebody to watch, it probably isn't in an overly positive way. I will recognize the fact that I believe they're one of the few acts that has performed at both the halftime show for the Super Bowl and the Grey Cup, and that's pretty cool, but not cool enough to keep them out of the D tier. After that, we had Madonna with LMFAO and Cirque du Soleil and Nicki Minaj and MIA and CeeLo Green. And by the way, let me just say this real quickly. I've had a few people, not a lot, but a few people who've come up to me and said, hey, you kind of look like CeeLo Green. There's nicer ways to tell me that I need to lose weight. No more CeeLo Green comparisons, please. Thank you. All right, back to this. I think Madonna did a decent job. I think her supporting cast let her down, and for that reason, I'm going to put her over in the. I think we're putting Madonna. We're going to put Madonna in the B tier. We're going to give respect to the fact that Madonna, at this stage in her career, I think, I don't believe she had any new music that she was promoting at the time, but she still did a fantastic job. And it still delivered. So yeah, Madonna, we're going to put her in the B tier. Next up, Beyonce. I got to control myself. I've been known to get into trouble when I hear Single Ladies. I'm not going to play it now because I don't want any sort of copyright infringement. But when that comes on, your boy likes to do a Single Ladies dance. Anyway, I'm not going to do it. But what I will say is I think Beyonce did a fantastic job. And I absolutely love the fact that, of course, she was part of Destiny's Child. And there were so many people who were in Destiny's Child. At one point, they had this joke. It's like, what's the name of the girl in the group? I don't know, temporary because there were so many people, but she brought back Michelle, she brought back Kelly, and I loved that she shared the stage with people that were with her on her come up, and I think that was great. I think it was an incredible performance. I'm throwing Beyonce up into the S tier. After Beyonce, we had Bruno Mars. I'm not going to go down as the greatest Bruno Mars fan, but I will respect the talent. I also respect the fact that he starts off this routine with this incredible drum solo, and he's on this apparatus that's moving him across the stage. And one of the comments was he moved farther than the offense for one of the teams did in the first half. Great halftime show. We're going A tier. Up next, we've got Katy Perry. Let me tell you something. I used to have a crush on Katy Perry back in this time frame and the whole like teenage girl time frame. I mean, for God's sake, she kissed a girl and she liked it. And her shows were pretty entertaining. I had the opportunity of seeing her in concert several times. Good for you, Justin Shudo. That's all I can say. But what I will say is from this halftime show, everybody goes on and on about the left shark. I don't care about the left shark, right shark, top shark, bottom shark. I think this was a decent halftime show. I enjoyed it when it came on. I thought she did a good job. She also had Lenny Kravitz and Missy Elliott. It was a good time. We're gonna go B tier for Katy Perry. Up next, okay, here we go. We got Coldplay, and Coldplay brought out Bruno Mars and Beyonce. And unlike the Madonna situation, it's kind of reversed because they upstaged him. Everybody got in formation with Beyonce, and I think we were singing 24 Karat Magic with oh sorry, we were singing Uptown Funk. I got the list here with Bruno Mars. I think Coldplay has some great music. The biggest disappointment of this halftime show for me was the fact that they didn't play Charlie Brown. If they had played Charlie Brown, I would have had no problem putting them in the A tier, but they didn't. So B tier for Coldplay and Friends. Up next, we have got Lady Gaga. I gotta tell you something. Let me tell you something. Lady Gaga, when she first jumped onto the scene and I was first introduced to her, I've got this woman who's showing up in a meat suit, and I'm not a vegetarian, so I'm not offended by that, but I'm like, you could have just put it on a barbecue. She's got this, blood pouring all over. It's a lot of shock value. So at first I'm thinking, here is somebody who's trying to be the next Madonna, and I just wasn't feeling it. But then I started listening to her sing, and she was singing at like the Academy Awards, and she did this performance at the Grammys, and I'm like, this is really good. I've been very, very impressed with Lady Gaga. I think that she's extremely talented, whether she's acting in roles like A Star Is Born or just belting out hits. I have absolutely no issues with Lady Gaga. I think her halftime show was fantastic. We're gonna go ahead and put her into the A tier. Up next, we got Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake performing in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, Justin Timberlake, here's a spoiler alert. He's about to be introduced to the F tier. He's not being introduced to the F tier because, unlike Beyonce, he didn't bring the guys from NSYNC with him. And by the way, JC was always a better singer. Didn't have a better agent, clearly, but a better singer. We're not bringing him into the F tier because he's not talented or anything of that nature. We're bringing him to the F tier for a couple of reasons. Number one, universally, this halftime show wasn't well received. And again, I'm saying universally. The other reason we're bringing Justin Timberlake into the F tier is I think we've already established that I absolutely, completely adore Prince. And one of Prince's requests was that he was never to be used as a hologram or anything like that in terms of somebody using them as one of their performances. And Timberlake poo-pooed all over all of that, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, disrespected the memory of Prince. He brought out the hologram during his performance, which was okay. It was not great. And yeah, you don't disrespect Prince. F tier. I have absolutely no problems with that. Next up, we're gonna give Justin Timberlake some company. We got Maroon 5. I don't know. Listen, during the time, again, we're in a world where after every single halftime show, when I jump on social media, all I hear is that was the greatest halftime show of all time versus that was the worst halftime show of all time. There were some people who enjoyed the fact that Adam Levine went into full striptease mode and just started taking off clothes, but it didn't change the fact that a couple of things. First of all, this is during the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, so a lot of people were sticking away from performing, and Maroon Five's like, well, we'll do it. Okay, well, that's their choice. The sound wasn't great. The set list was okay, but the sound quality kind of defeated it. And here's my thing: if you're gonna be up in arms about Janet Jackson having a nip slip or whatever we're calling it, I call it staged. Are we not annoyed that Adam Levine had to go for like cheap theatrics? F tier. Up next, we've got J Lo and Shakira. It was interesting in the sense of I'm saying J Lo and Shakira, but it wasn't until the end that they were on stage together. I still think it was. I still think it was a very good performance. It's a performance that I think you appreciate a lot more after you see the Jennifer Lopez documentary or one of them on Prime Video. I'm going to go ahead and put that into the B tier. Up next, The Weekend. Of course, this was during COVID, and while I absolutely detest The Weeknd's acting, just because I don't think it's very good. From a music standpoint, I think he's great, especially a lot of his older stuff. If you go back and listen to stuff like Dirty Diana, I think or DD as it's called on his EP, he's got some really good music. Here's the challenge: he was pretty much handcuffed with this halftime show. It was a lot. There were a lot of things beyond his control because of all the limitations and the restrictions of COVID. I think his performance might have been better had he had um, uh, no restrictions, but that wasn't the case. So we're going to go ahead and move him into the C tier. His halftime show was interesting. I don't necessarily know how desired it was for a lot of artists to perform then, but I think he did a decent job. I got a bit of a tickle, so I apologize if I keep sipping water here. Next up, we're going to call this childhood. You call it Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar. Yes, that Kendrick Lamar has performed twice at the halftime show, and 50 Cent. A tier. Are you kidding me? California Love at a halftime show? Let's friggin' go. Love this halftime show. I thought it was fantastic. Just an incredible salute to rap and to R&B. Incredible performances, absolutely S tier. Up next, we've got Rihanna. Rihanna kind of redefines, halftime shows because she could have taken a pass. She was expecting a child, and she's out there doing absolutely incredible stuff. Whether it's being like extremely high on a scaffold or just nailing her set list, I thought this was an incredible halftime show with definite rewatchable value. I'm going ahead and I'm going to put Rihanna into the A tier. Up next, we've got Usher. Usher was a bit of a question mark for a lot of people. They're like, well, why Usher? Why is he the halftime show? Well, here's the thing. He was in the middle of a residency at Las Vegas. It was at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. To me, it made sense. The most impressive thing about his halftime show for me is when he broke out the roller skates. Are you kidding me? That could have gone so terribly wrong, but it didn't. Great set list, did a lot, enjoyable. Nothing that's like, oh my God, this is amazingly fantastic, but still enough for me to say I'm going to go ahead and put it in the B tier. And that brings us to last year and our final halftime show, which is Kendrick Lamar. Now, I got to tell you the story of me in the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. I'm sitting in the basement of my friend's house. He has fed me well with burgers and wings, and I'm sitting back, and Kendrick Lamar takes the stage and just blows my mind with all this imagery. I'm seeing like some Squid Game stuff, some American flag stuff. There's obviously a lot of messaging in there. We got Samuel L. Jackson with the whole Uncle Sam thing. We've got so many things going on. And when I watched it live, I didn't have the appreciation for it. But when I went back and I studied it and rewatched it, as this is the most watched halftime show of all time on YouTube, I'm going back and I'm rewatching it and getting a lot more out of it. And I think it is nothing short of brilliant. I've had conversations with people where I kind of go into some of the things that he's doing in this halftime show. So, for example, a lot of people comment on the fact that, well, Serena Williams is there because she used to date Drake, and that. Okay, fair. But there's also the part that Serena Williams was at a tennis tournament years ago. She did a crip walk, and a lot of people were up in arms about that. And then Kendrick Lamar gives her the opportunity to do the crip walk on the biggest stage in the world. There's the part of Drake and the whole Not Like Us. And what a great week for Kendrick it was, because just days before performing at the halftime show, he dominated at the Grammy Awards, and then he goes there, and of course, there's the whole "Not Like Us" thing, and there's this absolutely diabolical moment where he turns to the camera and he does the whole "Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young." So there's that aspect to it as well. But for me, the overarching part of it is him talking about, you know, him having to, pipe down and play the game and be a good guy and all this stuff. And I just think that it was just such an incredible halftime show. I've heard people who have said to me, Keith, I just want to watch a halftime show. I don't want to have to go and analyze it. And I get that and I hear that. But this was art. The same way that I will dissect a movie, the same way I will dissect a song. You might go to the gallery and dissect a painting. You have to dissect this halftime show. It is absolutely incredible. And I've heard people say I don't like his music. I don't. It doesn't matter. This whole list that I'm doing here. It isn't whether or not I like the music or not. It's how effective the halftime show was. So this isn't recency bias. I believe that Kendrick Lamar's 2025 halftime show is one of the greatest of all time. And for that reason, S tier. So there you have it. As I take a look at this list, I feel pretty good about it. The S tier is made up of incredible halftime shows that I could listen to it or turn on to YouTube at any time. The A tier ones are great, but for me, they're just missing just a little bit. F tier, I don't have any issues there. So I'm just taking a quick scan. I feel pretty good about my list. The only definitive halftime show list you're ever going to need. If you have any questions or you have comments, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Honestly, I would, even if we disagree. If you think Maroon 5 belongs in the A tier, let's have a chat about it. I'd love to hear your rationale. But and tell me, what is your favorite halftime show of all time? Obviously, mine is Prince. I'd love to hear what yours is. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to check this out. Let me know if you want to check out more content like this. There are a lot of things in this world I'd like to rank. Maybe different movies from specific actors, maybe different genres. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Anyways, thanks so much for checking this out, and we'll chat with you soon. Take care. Bye.